Hey friends, how you doing? It's Tim. So I got a question for you. If you could change your life and make it better, would you? Now that seems like a pretty straightforward question, right? But the answer is a little tricky because most people, most rational people would say, yes, I want my life to be better. Yes, there's areas of my life that I'm not happy with. Yes, I would like to improve those areas in my life and experience more joy, more happiness, more security, more financial freedom, more abundance, more prosperity, a sense of inner ease inside. So many people walk around with this tension and they don't know how to release it, and so we eat or we drink or we smoke, and that just makes the tension worse. And so sure, we want to make ourselves feel better, right? But then if you're offered the opportunity, do you really seize it? Or do you come up with the excuses of, I'm too busy, I've got too much going on right now, it's not a good time, or the deeper psychological stuff, it's not really going to change, I've tried this before and it didn't work then, it probably won't work now. Or even the deeper psychological fear, which is, I'm not really worthy of being that happy. And so now you might not be thinking any of that. You might be thinking, yeah, I'm worthy of being happy. I just, it just doesn't seem like it works out for me. I try. And so it just reminds me of this story. So I don't know if you've heard me tell this or not, but I'm going to go ahead and share it now. So there's these two villages and they're right next to one another. And one of the villages decides to take the other one over. And so they have this terrible invasion and they take all the young men from the village that they took over and they throw them in these makeshift prisons. I mean, they're pretty horrible. They're just pretty much little, boxes just thrown over to the side, and they put all these young men into the boxes so that they wouldn't try to fight back. And so there's 4 people, these elders in this village that was captured, and they're like, we've got to do something about this. This is horrible. It's inhumane. And so they were all pretty well off. And so the first elder said, you know what, I've got an idea. So he goes up to one of the guards and he tries to bribe him, and he says, hey, I've got this textile mill and it has, lots of stuff in it, and just, it's yours, take it. But let our men in these prisons have some blankets because they're laying on the ground and they're laying on rocks and they're freezing to death. And the greedy guard said, okay, fine. And so now the guys in these prisons, they were a little bit more comfortable because they had these blankets. So the second elder said, well, I want in on this. I want to do something good too to contribute. And so he went up to a different guard and said, hey, I've got these wells full of water and you can have them as long as you give our men something to drink because they're dehydrated and they're thirsty and they need water. And so the guards were like, okay, fine. And so now the men in the prisons had these blankets, and now they had some fresh, clean water to make it a little bit easier for them. Well, the third elder said, well, I want some of this too. And so he decided that he was going to bribe one of the guards with his grains, right? He had a field of grain, and he said, hey, you can take the grain, you can take my mill, just give our men in these horrible prisons something to eat, right? Just give them the bread because they're starving. And the guard said, okay, fine. And so now the people in these prisons, they had the bread, they had the water, they had the blankets, and they were a lot more comfortable in their prisons. But the fourth elder said, you know what, there is something fundamentally wrong with this, okay? So he says, we need to do something way bigger and way better than this. And so he waited till the middle of the night, and he went up to one of the guards and he said, here's all the money I have. He says, I want the keys. and he talked the guard into it. And that night he got a hold of those keys and he went to those prisons and he unlocked the doors and he set the men free. Because the goal in life is not to try to figure out how to get comfortable in our prisons, in our mind prisons, but to realize that we have the keys within us to be able to set ourselves free. And I told that story in a group that I was, in a place where I was teaching a few days ago. And one of the people in the front audience looked at me and he said, what if you open the prison door to set somebody free and they don't leave. They don't want to go. And I don't know why, but that just haunted me. That just was like, oh my gosh, right? Because there are so many people for so many reasons that have a certain mindset that even if you try to expand their awareness, they dig in deeper. It's like they don't want to know more, they don't want to grow more, they don't want to look at a different viewpoint. They want to cling on to their truth, even if their truth is keeping them stuck, is causing suffering for themselves or for those around them. Hello, birdies. And so I thought, you know, that is very haunting because, you know, that's what made me want to ask you, right? If there was a way to open up a block, a barrier, something that's been holding you back, if there was a way to open it up so that you could actually make your life better, would you go for it? And, you know, and regardless of what you say, usually what you got to do is watch people's actions, right? Because we can say all kinds of stuff. Talk can be real cheap. It's how people act. It's how they behave. That's what really lets you know what they're thinking or how they've been emotionally programmed from the past. And in my experience, most people say that they would leave the prison, but they don't because of our excuses. You know, fear, F-E-A-R, it stands for finding excuses and reasons. And a lot of us find these reasons, and we don't think of it as reasons, we think of it as reality, right? We look at our life and we say, this is just how it is. But it's not, right? I mean, the situation might be how it is, but how you're looking at it has flexibility. How you're looking at it can change, and at the end of the day, that's where your power is. You don't have to change all these situations. You change what's going on in here, and that allows you to see it differently. So, quick story. So I was coaching this husband and wife who owned a business. I do a lot of business coaching, right? And so they came in and they were just frustrated and stressed out. And they wanted to lose a little bit of weight, but they were just trying to get rid of their stress. And I asked them why they were feeling so stressed. And long story short, they said that they would get up every morning at like 4 in the morning and get ready and try to be at the office by like 5:15. And I'm like, wow, when does everybody else get there? And they're like, well, everybody else gets there around 7:15, 7:30. I'm like, well, that's a big difference. Why do you get there so early? And they were both like, well, we've always done it that way. That's how we started out. And so that's what we do. And we're trying to set an example. And then I could see that they would get stressed. And I'm like, what's the extra stress? And they're like, well, that's because we get there early and then we sit there for 2 hours waiting for everybody else to show up. And I don't know why they don't care about this business as much as we do. And I'm like, well, because they don't own it, first of all, okay? And second of all, because have you told them they have to get there, you know, at 5? And they're like, no. I'm saying, when are they supposed to get there? And they're like, you know, around 7:15. And I'm like, so why don't you just sleep in and then you have some time for some fitness? Because they were complaining that in order to exercise, they would have to get up at like 3 in the morning to do it. And there's just no way they were going to do that. And I said, well, you have so many options here, even though you feel like you're stuck. They felt like they were in this mental prison and they couldn't get out. And they would not have got out if they were sitting there trying to figure out on their own. And so, because I was giving them a different viewpoint, that gave them the keys, right? It gave them the keys to get out of this limiting belief that they were in. And so I said, here's an option for you. Because I don't tell any people what to do. I just give ideas, right? And then create the emotion that caused them to want to follow through. And so, because most people will follow through if they really do believe it's their idea. Because, you know, we like to be right. And so, so anyway, I said, all right, here's something that you could do. You could go ahead and decide that you're not going to get to the office until 7. That means that you could get up at like 5:30, you know, have a cup of coffee, relax, do a little fitness, stroll into the office, and then instead of brewing for 2 hours so that when people come in, they feel your energy, they feel you're already stressed or mad at them, and then they don't want to come in early and be around that, right? You're creating the energy that is repelling your people from coming in. And they just kind of looked at each other. And then, you know, kind of like that, oh my gosh, I think that's right. and then I said, then they're gonna feel more relaxed because you're more relaxed, and then they're probably gonna wanna show up a little early, and if they don't, it's okay because you've only been sitting there like 10 minutes instead of 2 hours, and you're gonna be in a way better mood because you guys were relaxed, you had fun in the morning, you're able to do some fitness, you're gonna get healthier. It's just gonna create all these wonderful things. And it was a great idea, right? Sounds great. And of course they said, yes, that's awesome, we're gonna do that. No, that's not what they said. They said, no, I don't think we can do this. I don't think that that's gonna work. You know, we've always done it this way. This is just how it's been. And they started resisting, right? So I'm pretty convinced that if I just opened up a key, you know, a door, and then all of a sudden pull this gate open, would you really come through it? Would you? Because everybody says yes, but that's not the behavior that I see. The behavior is people come up with excuses for staying behind the fence, okay? For staying hidden because we're afraid. And we don't call it being afraid, we call it stressed and busy, right? And so we have all these excuses and all the people to blame and everything else instead of realizing that we got the keys, we can set ourselves free. You probably need some help and support doing that. It's very difficult to do it on your own. We talked about that in the last video on how to recognize self-sabotaging behaviors. So I tried to convince them through a variety of my advanced persuasion strategies. and they came in about 2 weeks later and very happy, very relaxed, very peaceful. And I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? And they're like, things have been great. I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. And they're like, well, we decided to just give it a try and see what happened. So we said we're gonna go in at 6:30. I know it's not 7, but we're gonna go in at 6:30. So let's just sleep in a little bit more and then maybe just do like 20 minutes of fitness, because you said that when you start doing any kind of fitness, you should only do it for, you know, no more than 20 minutes. You know, usually when we start fitness, I always say do it for like 3 minutes, right? And so that you're left wanting more, so you're not super sore the next day, and all you're doing is activating your muscles the first week. You're not trying to lose weight through exercise or any of that, because that's a sabotage, right? So much advice out there is just ridiculous and wrong and ineffective, but we don't know because we've heard the same advice over and over, so we think, yeah, that's what you do, and that is false, okay? So because if you're doing things that are not getting you the results that you want, and it's not getting results for millions of people, then you don't keep trying to do it. You change your result, you change your strategy, and that changes your result, okay? So, and before your strategy, you change your mindset. So they changed their mindset, right? And they said, hey, let's, well, actually they changed their strategy first. They said, we're just gonna get there at 6:30 and we're going to sleep in a little bit and see how it goes. Well, it went great, right? So it went really great the first morning. They got a little bit more sleep. They exercised for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then they, you know, had a cup of coffee, went into the office, got there about 6:30. People were rolling in at 7. They were very relaxed, and their employees are like, what's going on with this? This is a little weird, but they liked it, okay? And so the couple thought, hey, that was pretty good, let's do it again. And so they said, we've been doing it for about 2 weeks now, and it's been fantastic. Everybody's in a better mood at the office. It seems like our culture has improved. People think that we're all on some kind of drugs now or antidepressants because we're so much more relaxed and instead all stressed out. And so things have actually gotten considerably better at work, which has taken so much pressure off of us, and we're sleeping better at night, and you know, we're getting more rest now, which has given us the motivation and the willpower to eat healthier, and all these wonderful things are happening now. And so that strategy shift allowed them to have a new mindset, a new belief, right, that formed, that said, hey, we can do this. And then the only thing they said, which I hear all the time is, boy, I sure wish we would have done this sooner, right? I wish we would have met you 10 years ago. We could have done this, things would have been so much better. And I always say the same thing. Well, we're here now, and it's better that you did it now instead of 5 or 10 years from now. And they were like, yeah, that's for sure. Because when it comes to achieving goals, there's only one thing that evens the playing field, right? So, and that is time. We all have 24 hours in a day. Nobody has more than that. And so being able to recognize that if you're gonna make a change, you need to do it now. You need to do it quickly, you need to do it now. That is how, the most successful people think, because they're like, man, I need to do this right now, because if I don't, then I am not going to be able to get the results that I'm looking for. And when opportunity knocks, you need to answer. And most people are so busy thinking about whether they should jump on that opportunity train that by the time they're like, okay, I'm doing it, the train already left the station. Okay, and then it just sets up another cycle of self-sabotage. And then people just try to figure out how to get comfortable in their mental prisons. And so I want you to think about this lesson today. I want you to think about if the door was open for you and it really would transform your life, would you go through it? And would you do it no matter what it took? If it was inconvenient with your time, if you had to spend a bunch of money, if you had to tell other people that this is what I'm doing and it's very important to me and so I'm doing it. It's fairly funny because people say, well, I can't do that. Well, what if you had a heart attack? Would you just tell the doctors, I can't come in? I'm too busy. I got too much stuff going on. Other people aren't going to be happy with me. No, you'd be like, I don't really care. I'm going to die. I need to go into the doctor. Okay? So then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, then I would do it. Okay? People will tell me, I'll have moms that'll say, I can't do this. I don't have the willpower. I don't have the motivation to do this. I'm like, if I kidnapped your kid and said, if you don't do this thing, then you're never going to see your kid again. Would you do it? And then they look at me with this like fierceness in their eyes and they're like, yes, I would. Right? And I'm like, well, where is that fire for yourself then? Okay? Because you have it inside of you. If you do it for your kid, then that means that you have the ability. You're just telling yourself that you don't. And that's where it's at. That's my message for today, okay? So I want you to think about that and then tune in, because in the next couple days I'm going to be back talking about, all right, you've discovered there's self-sabotage. You realize that the gate is opening for you and you've got to make a decision. Where do you want to be 30 days from now? Are you going to be in the same exact place, or are you going to make your life better? And so the next time we talk, we're going to talk about how to start shifting some of that self-sabotage. It's going to be awesome. All right, let me see here. Hey, how are you, Scott? Thanks, I appreciate that, buddy. All right, so you have an awesome day, and we'll talk soon. Thanks. Think about this, okay? And make your success a sure thing. All right, bye.